On the 12th of March, 10 weeks ago to the day, I announced that with the unanimous support of the Health Contingencies Committee set up by Sam, that our shul would be closed as of 10 a.m. the next morning. And at the time, none of us knew how long this would last. We had access to the news about other countries and conversation with friends and family overseas, and yet we still felt at that time that the next week we would be able to revisit our decision. We had no idea how serious this would get, how severe this virus would be, how overwhelming to our hospitals and healthcare workers it would become. And now 10 weeks later, with as of this moment, 95,087 Americans confirmed dead from this virus, hundreds of thousands of people still sick with this virus, and millions, literally millions of people mourning the loss of loved ones. We now know beyond a measure of a doubt how serious, severe, indiscriminate, and devastating this virus is and continues to be. Now, we have learned a lot over the past 10 weeks. We have learned which precautionary measures appear to be most effective. We have learned which populations appear to be most at risk. We have learned how to trace and track and sequester infected patients. Researchers and physicians and scientists have invested exceptional efforts into discerning which treatments do not appear to work and which ones have hopes of becoming a cure. But there is still so much that we do not yet know. And every single step that we take to reintegrate in the coming days is by definition experimental. So the logic proposed by the OU and the RCA, governed by our faith's near irrepressible multi-millennial dedication to protecting human life, Shamar nafshecha ma'od, guard your lives diligently. The logic was that once the state begins its first phase of reoperations and eases restrictions, we as a Jewish community would wait to see how the experiment goes. And after 14 days, after 2 weeks, if reopening was a success and there was not a spike in infections, we would assess the possibility of safely making minyanim. And what has happened over the past 2 days is that due to a combination of political pressure and earnest sympathy, we have become the guinea pigs. The city is still under lockdown. Non-essential stores are still under lockdown. A majority of businesses and non-religious premises are empty by order of the government under threat of arrest for non-compliance. The only places that have been given permission to open in the last 2 days are houses of worship. The governor himself, as part of his announcement, said that religious gatherings are limited to 10 people as we find out how to do it safely and smartly, which means we do not yet really know how to do it safely and smartly. It has been reported in the name of the state that the size limit of 10 will increase if religious gatherings do not lead to new hotspots, if religious gatherings do not become new hotspots. This is an experiment, and we are now the guinea pigs. Now, I know I've only been your rabbi for 9 months, but I want you to know that I would never, ever, ever play Russian roulette with your lives, or the lives of your children, or the lives of your parents, which is why we will be waiting at least another 2 weeks as the OU and the RCA and the medical and halachic authorities continue to maintain to see how things go. And it is an unfortunate truth that the shuls and the churches and the mosques and others who decide to start services right now are the test cases upon which we will be making our decision. And I be honest with you, it is my deepest prayer that they are all shielded from harm and that we can follow suit in the weeks to come. And when it comes to life and death, Good decisions have the great disadvantage of usually being unable to provide the proof that vindicates them. At their best, good decisions rob us of the benefit of hindsight as they prevent the harm that they predict. An irony at the heart of making public policy is that people often need to see calamity before feeling that limits are needed, and by then it is too late. Federal regulators can warn for 2 decades that 2 dams are dangerous, but until people's houses literally drift away, insisting on spending for repairs can feel like an overreaction. To put it in a sentence, the fact that most of us on this call, that most of our community have been relatively unharmed in this crisis, can make it hard to believe that all the restrictions have been strictly necessary. But in one of the more sober headlines yesterday, the most recent modeling out of Columbia University suggests that had the United States enacted social distancing measures 1 week earlier, just 1 week earlier, 36,000 less people would have died. Of course, models are just models, but that is a sobering idea. So as Sam and I said in our letter yesterday, which details a lot of what I've said and much more, and I encourage you all to read in detail, we would rather lose 2 more weeks of Minyan and find out that all is well than risk losing a single soul. And if I may, let me be as clear as I can. Davening with a minyan and coming together for prayer is among the most important expressions of Jewish life as it has been lived since its inception. At our best, our collective presence centers our attention, it deepens our focus, and it lifts our spirits, and it reminds us of our place as a neighbor and our status as a servant, suspended in a complex web of obligations to those beyond our homes. Under ordinary circumstances, we can find ourselves struggling to persuade ourselves of the weight and the obligation of communal prayer, and I cannot emphasize enough how much spiritual wealth and psychological worth lies in attending a minyan. But a wisdom born at the dawn of time that precedes both in chronology and import the very conception of prayer teaches that life comes first. To paraphrase a great British poet, our decision to postpone opening is not because we love Minyan any less, but because we love life more. And I know that some are struggling to impart the importance of Minyan to their children under conditions in which we seem to be so tranquil in its absence. But know, to the extent that we project tranquility, it stems not from an indifference to Minyan, but from the conviction that we are following the tenets of our faith. I know that it isn't easy, but the lesson that life is sacred rarely gets concretized beyond the front lines of battlefields or emergency rooms, and now is our chance, please God, our only chance, to show that in Jewish law, life triumphs over almost every other value. We will, of course, be keeping you updated with any changes, and will, well in advance of any phase of reoperation, provide you with details of where to go, how to behave, what to bring, and whether to come. We have a team working on protocols and have now the benefit of learning from others across the globe, in Israel and elsewhere where they have opened up, and now in places across the city, to learn what works and what doesn't. And in the meantime, I want to stress how proud I am to be part of a community that has shown so much support to each other, so much devotion to our shul, and so much commitment to all that we stand for. It is simply wonderful to see your faces online at night and know that as long as there are populations who are unable to come to shul, we will continue to hold online communal learning and activities. And on that note, I look forward to speaking to you all tomorrow at 6 p.m. with a pre-Shabbat message as we begin a new book, the book of Bamidbar, and hopefully find some serenity in carving a path forward at this time. And now I hand over to Sam and to the doctors, to whom I am indescribably grateful for their guidance, their wisdom, their support, and their time.